Last week on the Poisonrana Patreon, we celebrated Shark Week by talking all about the critically acclaimed Sci-Fi Channel movie Sharktopus in a brand new episode of Reviews from the Six.
The Sharktopus shows up. Was this the funniest death? The secret agent guard, security guard with Eric Roberts?
Yeah. This is the ballerina.
Yeah.
So this was my favorite moment. You can find this clip on YouTube. This guy stood there
with a gun.
The tentacle wraps around him, so he drops the gun and then puts his arms up in the air like a ballerina and is just spinning round and round. And as I said, remember, this is, okay, imagine tentacles wrapped around you and you're spinning and action. I want to watch this without the tentacles.
Right.
It's so fucking funny. Just scuttling around.
And then they edit in this
and then
shit.
tentacle. Yeah. So fucking funny.
Yeah, this was hilarious death. His was way funnier. It cuts to Eric Roberts, bless him.
Get this show plus NXT retro reviews, wrestling reviews, movie reviews, and so much more over at patreon.com/PoisonRana, and it's only $5, so what are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
Poisonrana.
Hello.
Hello.
Braden Herrington here with Davie Portman for Poisonrana. You found us on whatever podcast app you found us on. And of course, Davie, we are live.
We are live on youtube.com/@PoisonRanaPod. Hello, YouTube room.
Hello, YouTube room. Hello, my frogs. Where the frogs at? Our poison pals, our friends, our everything. It's Sunday, which means we are going to chat about everything going on in the world of wrestling. And Davie, how you feeling?
Not great. How are you?
You may notice if you're watching on the YouTube or in the YouTube room live, we're not live in the BDE because just like the President of the United States, Davie has contracted COVID yet once again. I hope you're okay, buddy.
Yes. Yet I am not stepping down from my duties.
Thank God.
As co-podcast host. I've been. I think it was on Tuesday. My eyes were just really itchy, and I thought it was just allergies, and I've AC's blowing all the time because it's really hot and humid. And then Friday was just feeling so weak, and luckily I wasn't working. And then yesterday just was all right, I'm not feeling normal. And sure enough, I've got it once again. So we're recording separate locations. It's given me a chance to watch a lot of wrestling in the last day. I mean, as far as weekends go to get sick, kind of an okay one. There's a lot going on, a lot I could catch up with and talk about today. But yeah, I'm not feeling my best. I'm dosed up. I'm hoping to make it through these 90 minutes and then probably back to bed.
Well, I hope you're okay. I mean, you seem you're young, you're spry. You've dealt with it before.
Yeah, this ain't my first rodeo.
Yeah, exactly. Is this your 8th time?
I think so. It's something like that. It's at least my 4th, actually diagnosed, but I'm pretty sure I've had it a couple more times.
To be fair, you work in a bar, so you're
I
work
in very public settings. You know, we were in busy bars watching the Euros. We had we had Money in the Bank here. I work in a bar all the time. So yeah, I'm around people a lot of the time. It's bound to happen, and luckily it's not too bad. Apart from feeling quite tired and sweaty, and my eyes are I look swollen. I'm looking at myself in this camera, and I just look like a puffy face right now.
No, you're beautiful. Stop.
But
please.
Luckily, not coughing too much, because that's when it's really frustrating. But
I mean, it could have been worse. You could have been shot in the ear.
Nah,
so.
Might have taken it. Everyone would have loved me then. I'd have won podcast of the year after that, wouldn't I?
Yeah, you definitely win something. That's for sure. We're recording this. We're live right now, Sunday at 2 p.m. And just before going live, I saw the tweet, the posts from President Joe Biden, who it looks like he's tapping out. He's going to be tapping out when it comes to the November race for 2024. So I guess we'll see. We don't usually talk. I feel like last week was the only time we really ever talked about at least American politics on this show, because it was just the biggest thing with the whole assassination attempt. But that's old news now.
Yes.
Now we have Hulk Hogan cutting promos. Everything's just changing.
Dana White shooting on Canada. No, sorry, Joe Rogan shooting on Canada.
Right.
Person, aren't they?
Yeah.
Bizarre.
So we're always one step closer to the movie Idiocracy, where the president of the United States in that movie is a pro wrestler. So watching that Hulk Hogan thing was just like, oh my God. The wrestling fan, the 10-year-old, 12-year-old Braden was like, oh shit, Hulk Hogan's cutting a promo. But the adult who realizes this man is a piece of shit was like, oh, it's Hulk Hogan.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it says a lot if he's endorsing you, right? In my opinion. Yeah.
I agree. So that was very odd, seeing that all over the news with Hogan ripping his shirt off, Trumpomania. So Godspeed, Americans. Get ready for, I don't know, Michelle Obama as your next elect or something. I don't know what's going to happen, but
I'm not clued into it enough about who would be potentially running instead. But yeah, I don't know whether that's Kamala Harris steps up or what. But we'll see. It's going to be an interesting few months for the US and the world. We've got global outages. Microsoft is down. We've got the LCBO on strike. We've got presidents dropping out of races. And we've got Earl Hebner righting a wrong that's been 30 years in the coming. What a week.
As a Canadian, I don't accept it. I don't accept it. I'll just say that right off the bat. Sorry, Earl. We still don't like you. We still, no matter what you do, you're still not really welcome in this country. I don't care what kind of facade they try to put over on TNA last night. Earl, you better watch yourself when you come to Canada still. But yeah, should we dive into the world of wrestling? Because there, like you said, this was a weekend for you to be at home, because it felt like there was so much wrestling that I couldn't even keep up with everything. And I felt like I've watched an insane amount of hours of wrestling in the last, at least 24 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I've been off the last couple of days, and I've probably watched more than I intended to. I got to watch Collision, Slammiversary, and I've watched a fair bit of the G1 from both nights so far. There's stuff I'll probably never watch, but I feel I've got a good grip of what's going on there as well. But let's get to a little bit of housekeeping first. A couple of changes on the schedule this week. If you listen to our Patreon show, Behind the BDE, Recording Nightmares, you'd have learned that unfortunately we weren't able to do our Only Fools and Horses review with Cameron for a couple of reasons. Firstly, we did watch this and we did have a lovely conversation about this sitcom for a good 45, 50 minutes when we discovered that we had not, in fact, pressed record. So we thought, never mind, we'll wait to see if when Cameron shows up, we'll just do the whole show again with him. Let's do a little truncated version. However, Cameron never showed up, and it's about 4 or 5 days later, and Cameron still hasn't shown up. So,
no. Cameron,
if you're out there, we love you. Please call us. Mummy and Daddy are worried. But yeah, so hope all is well there. We will hopefully get this review out there sometime, because I thought it was a pretty fun chat we had. But as a make good, we recorded an impromptu Behind the BDE where we kind of dived into recording Nightmares and then went off on all the tangents you can imagine from this show. But for this time, as we weren't able to drop a Patreon show for everyone, we put this out for all of our patrons.
Yes. I mean, we've been podcasting for quite a few years now together, and luckily that's never, knock on wood, that's actually never happened to us before. But we have been trying out some new like gear and testing, recording and wise. So I understand where the error came from. But just like last week when we did this show, about halfway through, your face just changed, and I was like, something's wrong. It was the same thing. Recording, we went about 40 minutes on this. Only, or as Sino called it to us, only fools and horses forget to press record.
Yeah.
But it's okay.
Well, we have Chris Leone in the chat right now. Let us know. We're about 10 minutes into the show so far. How we looking? How we sounding?
We've been muted the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear you, and I feel you can hear me. So I think we're off to a better start. But boy, what a week.
Yeah, Leone in the chat says the name on the ticket says Biden, ... Hunter Biden. Oh, God.
You know, a lot of the states would probably take him over his dad anyway. Like, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, we'll hopefully get that review out sometime. We would like to chat with Cameron about it, as it was his pick. And it might be nice for us to give it a little break, seeing that we did just talk, however, not record about it. Yeah. But we'll be having another comedy classic coming out this week, as we're joined by Farmer Brent Nickel, our own cowboy, to talk about Hot Rod.
Yes. Brent has been a great world champ family member. He's legit a cowboy out on the farms, out in the range. And he says he loves listening to us while working on the farms. And it's just such a great compliment, but always a great time. We've had some great picks with him in the past. The Calgary Stampede, Epic 97 show, Tombstone. And he's definitely gone off the beaten path of the cow. I don't understand how Hot Rod fits in on the cowboy thing. I think he just likes this movie, but I know a lot of people do. It's a kind of a cult classic, kind of, sort of.
Okay, yeah, it's a popular movie.
Like, it's a weird one, but definitely brings a lot of laughs. So I'm looking forward to.
I mean, Brent is more on the west of Canada, isn't he?
Yeah.
And I
West
guess
side.
And I guess Roddy Piper was on the west of Canada, so there could be a very loose tie in there.
Roddy,
Hot Rod.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Is Adam what is it? Andy Samberg? Andy Samberg.
Yes.
Right. Cool beans.
But no, looking forward to this one. So that'll be coming out this week, and then rounding off the month, we will be releasing a SummerSlam review with What Culture's Michael Hamflett. And well, the poll has decided, and it is SummerSlam 1994. This is Undertaker v. Undertaker, Bret v. Owen in a steel cage, and Razor Ramon versus Diesel for the Intercontinental Championship. Narrowly missing out with SummerSlam 1999 and 95 and 13 trailing behind. But yes, 94 will be the 30-year anniversary of this show. And it's one I don't think I've seen beginning to end. So I'm quite looking forward to this one.
Yeah, definitely kind of happy that one was the pick. Obviously, 30 years later, and I know that's going to be a pretty good show. So we got a lot of cool podcasts. You get those, and you get everything that we've done in the last few weeks, in the last few years, all $5 a month to access. Hundreds and hundreds of movie reviews, wrestling reviews, and everything. I know Shark Week is come and gone, but someone sent me. We missed out, Davey, because I know we just reviewed Sharktopus, starring Eric Roberts from 2010, and we got some people messaging about how they actually watched this movie when it came out. But I got a few messages about Eric Roberts actually making a new shark movie, like.
Space Sharks.
Space Sharks. Shout out Alan who sent me this, and he's like, "Hey, just letting you know that Eric Roberts is legit in a new shark movie." And I mean, this makes Sharktopus look like The Godfather, because this one looks ridiculous.
Is this just Biker Mice from Mars? No, wait, no. What am I thinking? Sharks.
Street Sharks?
Street Sharks, yeah.
Yeah.
Am I mixing up my cartoons? Yeah.
Wow, look at you. Yeah, that would be sweet. They need a live action
Biker Sharks from Jupiter.
I'm pretty sure Seth Rogen is making a Biker Mice from Mars show or movie or something. But Street Sharks needs the live action remake, because that would be pretty wild. I still have some of the figures from when I was a kid. But yeah, Space Sharks. I don't know. Maybe one day we'll review that. But
it's out. Who knows? Maybe I'll watch it today.
Yeah, well, let me know how it goes. You'll be so loopy from either your meds or the COVID that maybe you'll actually love this movie.
Be doing my Eric Roberts Shark marathon. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yes, a whole lot coming out on the Patreon. We were meant to make an announcement on Tuesday, but we forgot. So we'll make another announcement.
I pulled
an announcement.
I joked about pulling a Tony Khan about making an announcement of an announcement, and then we never made the announcement.
Yeah.
So this Tuesday on Up Next, we're going to announce a new show little project we're going to be working on, and we'll be announcing it on Tuesday on upNXT. So tune in on the Post Wrestling feed after NXT on Tuesday night, because we will be going live, as always, to chat about some NXT, but then announcing a cool little show that we have in the works.
An additional show to our network that we'll be putting out for the next about 16 months-ish, something like that. Yeah, 16
or 17.
Yeah, well, give or take. We'll have to see.
Yes,
we'll have to see
yes.
If you can see, that is.
Yes.
So yes, we'll be making that announcement on Tuesday. We've got a lot of exciting things in store for August as we're on the road to All In and Bash in Berlin. We'll be doing our Best Match Ever Europe Part 2 coming out, as well as What's Next, some other retro movie reviews, as well as whatever you nutcases have picked for us to review over on Up Yours.
Absolutely, for sure. So I appreciate anyone who signed up. It's always a good time to sign up. Again, it's only $5 and it helps support your boys. It helps us buy these new microphones so that we don't ever not record a show or ever do a show on the wrong mic. So you want to support us, now's the time.
Let's not count our chickens yet, but
because we're getting some new mics, so help us out.
Yeah, and I've had to miss a week of work now as well, so
shout out COVID. There you go. And hey, you want to help us out, chop-tees.com/poisonrana. And I know Chop-Tees, Dickie's been busy with the Post Wrestling G1 brackets. You know, every year it's always you who's like, hey, did you enter yet? And I'm always like, shit. And I just like do it randomly. This time I jumped on it without you having to pester me.
You did. Nice.
But I did my always just like randomly picking things. And it looked like I was like almost winning this thing again. So I don't know.
Nice.
I'll lose for sure. But
I was going to do it. I forgot. And then I did it very last minute. I'm hoping it counts. But it was before the show started.
Right.
But I was planning, like every year I say, I'm going to work backwards. I'm going to be like, all right, who are the finalists going to be? Who are the semi-finalists? And try and work out that way. Even look like, he's main eventing in his hometown, so he's probably going to win that one. And then I was just, I need to get this in, and just randomly picked. I don't think I'm doing too well so far.
Well, hopefully, I mean, I'll probably end up being dead last by the end of it. But we've got WH in the tournament. Oh right, yeah, he's always dead last.
Yeah,
in everything. I hope I win because I want Dickie Bird to personally give me the prize package in person. Like that's part of the deal, right? So that's why I entered. I don't care if he's in Australia and I'm in Canada. He better deliver it to my front door. So that's why I've entered it.
I don't know. Listening to that episode of Eagles Don't Hunt Flies, I don't think he's ever coming to North America again. I think he's
done.
Through. I think he's through with us. Yeah.
He's tapped out.
Yeah. But yes, there's so many wrestling shows going on all over the world in the next few months. We've got, WWE in Japan. We've got them in Germany. We've got UK, Canada, US. And you want to look fresh for these shows. So get yourself some sweet Poisonrana merch over at chopped-tees.com.
Yeah, and super appreciate everyone who's been buying and keep sending in the photos and stuff. It's so awesome. I got to shout out a listener named Brian who went on a whole, summer vacation across Canada. And he posted a bunch of photos in the Poisonrana Facebook group where he's just rocking like the button-up shirt, the pink t-shirt. And he said he even had a Poisonrana hat, but then lost it on his travels after a wild night out. So somewhere, somehow, some stranger probably is now the owner of a Poisonrana snapback hat, which they're probably looking really good. But thank you, Brian. Super awesome. So anyone who buys the merch, please send in the photos. And we totally appreciate, and the love is real. Thank you.
Even my dad's looking at getting one of the frog button-up shirts.
Oh, you got to give him the shorts with it.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
How's he supposed to go to the community center without looking so fresh?
Exactly. Well, let's get into a bit of wrestling from the past week. Where do you want to start this week? Shall we start with a bit of AEW?
I think so. Yes. Let's put our gas masks on. Breathe in some. I was going to say H2O. What's the chemical compound for just oxygen?
H2O.
Wait, isn't that water?
No, that's water. Just O2.
O2. Well, yeah, let's breathe in some O2 like MJF and discuss all the things from AEW because it was a pretty big week with Dynamite 250. Should we start there?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say we watched this separately. We didn't watch the show together, and I think they've continued their run of quite strong Dynamites. And I mean, you're not going to find it's rare you're going to find a better match than this opening match from Dynamite this week with MJF and Will Ospreay.
Yes, what a match this was. I mean, we were wondering about a week ago, like, hey, are we actually going to get this match? Is this something they're going to promote and pull away because maybe it's the Wembley match or something like that? But no, they didn't just have a match. They had a hell of a match that went 59 minutes and 58 seconds or something like that, which is pretty incredible. And I watched this week, and it was quite a match. I mean, maybe one of the best AEW matches, maybe one of the best Dynamite matches. Just like nonstop wrestling for an hour straight. These two guys who, you know, in my opinion, are two of the best wrestlers living today. And ever since kind of MJF's, I think his title reign, where he was really showing the doubters of like, hey, you know, I'm not just the promo guy, I'm a really good wrestler. In my mind, I'm like, oh, wait, wow, I can't wait to see MJF versus Will Ospreay. And then they gave it away on free TV, and it delivered. It over-delivered. It was so good, and clearly something we can go back to down the line. But MJF continuing to be one of the most well-rounded like wrestlers today, and definitely, you know, showing why he is, and he should be talked about as one of the best. Because like Ospreay, everyone talks about his in-ring ability, and hell, he's become one of my favorite promo guys too. So two of the most like really like overall top wrestlers in my opinion, and they put on a really good match. Like there was so much back and forth, so many insane spots, and this is an hour long. Like this is the cardio for these guys is just like unmatchable, because these guys went out there and killed it for that long. And I thought they had such great chemistry going back and forth with some of the crazy moves. The spot with the kid punching MJF in the crowd was so funny. I don't think I've ever seen anyone drink water like with such attitude when he was drinking the bottle of water. That was hilarious as well. I don't know. I thought this was up there as one of the best things they put out in quite a long time. And I know that people out there are probably like, oh, but did they really need to go an hour and this and that? But like this match had more wrestling than a 3-hour edition of Raw. So like it's pretty crazy. I mean, I don't know what people watch wrestling for, but I do enjoy watching wrestling when I watch wrestling. And I was like blown away from what I got to watch on Wednesday.
Yeah, I thought this was awesome. I find it interesting with MJF because everyone thinks of him as such a like WWE style guy, but his best matches are the matches that are so far away from that style. I always think about the matches he had with Jungle Boy, the matches with Sammy Guevara, Darby Allin, Adam Cole, and then here with Ospreay. I've enjoyed these way more than, you know, his Moxley matches and his Jericho matches and his those style of matches. Yeah. I just think he works at such a pace, and the actual like mixes up so nicely. So these matches have like acts to it. You know, you have just the feeling out trying to wrestle each other. Then you're building up to the high spots, and you're brawling through the crowd. And whereas you watch some of these hour-long matches from, you know, we've reviewed Flair Steamboat going Broadway and that kind of thing, and they're good, but it's a lot of like the same sequence repeated throughout the match. Or like the Shawn Brett match, there's a whole lot of just, you know, rest holds and we're going an hour here, whereas this didn't let up at all. And how you're doing sequences like the avalanche ranas landing on your feet and the pin roll-ups back and forth where you're doing that and then you're doing the bridge and all of that. How you're doing that 50 minutes into a match where you're not stopping. Like, you would just feel one of them's going to just get gassed and accidentally get pinned here. But I think what I love is in AEW, we've established that draws happen, that you have time limit draws. We have the, 30-minute time limit for a regular match, which we saw with Danielson and Kenny at Grand Slam. You have the hour-long for a title match, which we've seen a few times. We've seen with Hangman and Danielson, and we had the time at draw a year ago with MJF and Cole. And I think teasing that, once you go after your like second commercial break in a match, you go, okay, I think we know where we're going now. I think we're probably going to a draw. So then pulling out a win with 2 seconds left on the clock and actually having a result, but doing the hour, I thought was quite good, because I think a lot of people assumed, as you're hitting that 55-minute match mark, oh, we're going to have the bell ring and we're going to have another draw, and that's going to set up the Wembley match. Whereas now, who knows? I could see this being Wembley for sure. I don't know if they'll go in another direction potentially, and you do have that all-out show a couple of weeks later, which you can. I think we're seeing with a few things on the card, we're kind of simultaneously juggling a couple of feuds, but a little bit more carefully than they did last year. We've got Danielson Swerve at All In. You could absolutely do Hangman v either winner at All Out, and that kind of thing. So I think they're doing a better job in subtly building All Out this year. So whether this is the rematch at Wembley or All Out, I do see it coming soon. But what an incredible match.
I don't think we're going to this match at Wembley. I think we're going to Garcia versus MJF after this. Like, he beat him, right? Like in the last few seconds. I mean, the timing on this as well. You mentioned obviously the cardio and the conditioning these warriors had to go through to entertain us for pretty much an hour straight. I think it sets up with the finish that, like, Ospreay was kind of screwed. MJF doing the classic using the ring. But I do think this maybe potentially sets that up for MJF versus Garcia at Wembley. And last week we were talking about how if that's the case, then what does Ospreay do? And you mentioned Pac, but I think we kind of forgot that Ricochet is kind of floating around in the air, and I think that's someone who you could easily just put that match out there, and people would be like, oh shit, like Ricochet, Ospreay one more time at Wembley, which I think we get a lot of people buzzing, but. This match from this week really did get me buzzing, because I thought it was just one of the best matches they could have put out. I mean, they've done the Broadway hour-long matches before. I'm thinking the Hangman Danielson. Like where does this rank in? Because this wasn't pay-per-view. Like, AEW's put on some amazing matches in their short 5 years that they've been around, but for TV matches, this has to be up there as one of them. We were selfishly able to go to the first Grand Slam, Kenny versus Danielson. And to me, I still think I'd put that just a little bit above this one for the atmosphere, the aura, and everything else kind of involved, the dream match, if you will. But this one, I wouldn't argue that, some people would say this one was better. I don't know if I go back and rewatch it right away, but wow.
I think they're the three you've got to be talking about. The Danielson, Hangman, Danielson, Kenny, and this one. And then way back in the early days, the Omega Pac match was really great for TV as well. Yeah. You also have some of your FTR tag matches and that kind of thing. I really loved the Punk MJF match we had on TV in Chicago, wasn't that? Yeah. But yeah, this is definitely up there. I still wonder where Pac slots in, right? We've got 5 weeks until Wembley, something like that. Yeah. So
I think his is more with the group. It looks like they've been teasing or advertising Death Triangle, meaning Lucha Bros and Pac in CMLL, which is kind of a whole, mind blown emoji kind of thing there. But and then MJF afterwards. I'm not sure if you saw the promo he cut in the ice bath with his gas mask and everything. I loved his after. He's got like them giving him the oxygen tank, which is a great callback to his match with Danielson, the hour-long match there. But he's basically like, didn't break a sweat, practically a night off. And it's like he just had this war and he's like barely standing. And all the memes are great. But
remember, Pac he is number one contender. He won that match to get a shot at this title. So
okay. When did that happen?
He won the 4-way out. Was it at Forbidden Door?
Oh, okay. Give him
Yeah,
a TV match, I guess.
So it's whether he's on TV like before then or I don't know where they go.
So MJF is also teasing that he will be at Arena Mexico for CMLL, which is pretty cool, seeing more crossover with AEW. But I'm wondering if we see like the Death Triangle in more of a group act at Wembley this year, not just Pac as like a singles.
I think that would be disappointing, to be honest. I think especially.
I mean, what has he done? He hasn't done shit. I didn't even realize he won that match. I feel like they could just let that go and people wouldn't even really mind. He's someone who, I don't know what the deal is with him disappearing, whether it's injuries, visas, or he just likes to go home. Like, he is someone who becomes an afterthought repeatedly. And he's one of the best, like, athletes in wrestling, but he just always disappears. And then what's his character? It's been, I'm mean and grumpy. And it's like, okay,
I don't disagree, but the story they've been telling on TV is that. It's that right. He's been underperforming. He's been cutting those promos about it's time to turn that around. And he's been going for singles stuff and he's been winning his singles matches. It's Wembley. He's one of the biggest British acts who happened to miss out on last year's show. I think you've done the Death Triangle to death at this point, and I have zero interest in seeing them as an act. I want all three to split and get that fucking dork Alex Abrahantis off my TV.
He definitely needs to go at this point. We've been we're broken record, but he needs to go.
I mean, we've been broken record on the whole thing. Like, Phoenix could potentially be one of your top babyface single stars. Penta could potentially be one of your top heel superstars. And I kind of feel it's with the three of them, it's a little bit, and we'll get to him a little later, but it's a little bit Dolph Ziggler syndrome now, where it's, okay, you've been you're good. You're really good. You're all really good. But we've seen so many stop starts with all three of you that I don't really give a shit anymore.
Yeah.
But I do think for Wembley, you'd give Pac a singles match. And I think it would somehow be in this mix of, Ospreay, MJF, Garcia, Ricochet, maybe some sort of combination, potentially.
Maybe a multi-man or something, which it still doesn't feel quite like right. I mean, Pac versus Ricochet versus Ospreay, that would be cool, but I don't know.
Or Pac puts on the line his number one contendership to Ospreay, and that could set up an all-out rematch or that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure he'll be on the card, especially since missing last year, but I feel like right now is the character and everything is not necessarily the hottest, but they got a few like going. I know like the thing to rag on AEW is they got too many titles, which is completely true. At least they're slowly maybe trying to get rid of some of the other ones, like those Ring of Honor ones that I didn't even realize were still a thing. But like using this title for the MJF Ospreay was like such a good way to like elevate it and make this feel important, make it seem like it was something this guy, was fighting to the death to win. So maybe having Garcia finally, have his moment winning a title from MJF in Wembley would be pretty cool, but that does still leave Pac out, I'd say. So maybe we get Pac MJF before or after that. The All Out you mentioned is like 2 weeks after. That could definitely be it. But either way, like these group of guys are putting on great matches. And I think Ospreay kind of lights a fire under some people's asses, I'm sure, because if you're a wrestler, I'm sure you go on websites or Twitter or whatever, just like us fans, they love wrestling. And I'm sure they, listen and see that, Ospreay's the guy that everyone says is the best wrestler in the world. Well, let me face him and find out. And it seems like it really ignites people to want to have amazing matches with this guy, which is just awesome. I mean, anyone who wrestles this guy is like having their match of their career, essentially. So this match was awesome on Wednesday, and going forward, it does kind of leave me of where Ospreay will be slotted in Wembley. I think by next year he will be absolutely main eventing it with the world title involved and everything. But right now, like, go out there as your dare I call Ospreay a mid-carder for AEW, but right now it's like they're putting on some incredible in-ring matches, and this week was definitely a test to that, because man, he's just like insane. That the flying hidden blade thing also, what the hell, this is just crazy, just nuts. So really got me like back into you know what? I've been loving Dynamite the past few weeks. I don't usually watch Rampage or Collision. I did check out some of the Collision stuff today. We'll get into, but Dynamite for me has really been hitting. Of course, there's stuff nitpicking that I'm like, okay, do we really need this blood and guts match? I'm not that excited for it this week, to be honest. But for the past few weeks, Dynamite has really been hitting for me, and it's been a lot of the wrestling, and they've been trying with the character work, like really trying. If anything, WWE, the matches, they're pretty good and they're pretty decent, but it's the stories that they're usually really getting over. And in AEW, it's kind of the opposite, where it's the wrestling that really gets over, and the stories and the characters are kind of what they struggle with. But they've been trying.
I think focusing All In as their big event this year is making a difference to the storytelling, because I think it's we might not have had a graphic for many of the matches yet, but I think you can see the direction for a lot of it. And I think the main stories they've been telling really well. You've got Mariah and Tony, which I think they're doing a great job with. And I thought Mariah was fantastic this week. I was kind of cooking when she was doing a promo and just thought it was Tony Storm, and then was confused why Shivani was going off calling her a bitch and stuff like that on commentary.
Speak, bitch. I was like, whoa, Tony.
But I think they've been building that up really well for that feud. I think Britt Mercedes is in a pretty good spot as well. I like their promo off the other week. Okay, the Sting mask thing is a little bit done to death, but I still get a little bit of a kick out of it whenever they do it. But it feels like a WrestleMania build, like a bit longer term storytelling. We're going for our peak. Whereas it was around this time last year where CM Punk came out and goes, we've got a stadium show in a few weeks and no one seems to be talking about it, and I think they are way more focused, and I think that's helping the quality of the programming as well as putting on good matches. But putting on good matches hasn't been a thing AEW have ever really struggled with.
Yeah, it's always been the stories and making you invested, which is still something that they definitely struggle with. Like, episode 250, but they only had about 250 people there. No, they had 3,000 people, which think Wembley, you're going to have 50,000 around there for it. You're going to have, bigger crowds for obviously bigger shows, but it is still something I see them struggling with. And then on top of that, you're seeing people discuss the whole rights deal and what's the future of AEW, and will they stay on TBS or TNT, and will they show up on Max? There's a lot of people who use French VPNs for some reason found out that AEW was on some of the apps and stuff, and they're like, no, it's just because of this or that. But maybe they stay and maybe they do end up on Max. I think that would be the best case scenario for them, because WWE going to Netflix, I think that is the craziest, biggest move they could possibly do. Me and you, we're millennials and we don't have cable, and it's only old people that still really only use cable. And in a few more years, it's just going to get more and more online thing. The fact that major sports live broadcasts are switching to some of the, streaming services. It's what's going to help.
I think you would still want a TV presence. AEW and not WWE.
You're totally right.
WWE, everyone knows who it is. How many times you go, oh, I talk about wrestling. What, WWE? That's what people assume wrestling is. And I think
for the TV, they need TV for sure. Pay-per-views though
for sure.
Right?
Pay-per-views, back catalog, all of that is going to help, and doing more supplementary, your documentaries and that kind of stuff, throwing that on a Max. I do think that they need TV still, and sports, your NFLs, your baseball games and stuff like that are on these streaming packages, but the majority are still on TV as well. And you want to catch those channel hoppers and, being left on in a bar and people seeing it following whatever on TSN4 over here.
What's a hologram? What is this?
But it is interesting. It feels like we're potentially moving more to an announcement of that, but I feel like we've been talking about that for 2 years at this point.
Yeah. Hey, wrestling is something that never really goes away. Wrestling, no matter what company, no matter what country, people are going to follow it as, you know, as we know, wrestling fans are pretty die hard. And the fact that they do get, you know, people every week to fill arenas and some stadiums, some companies stadiums, but like wrestling fans are pretty loyal. And, you know, as a fan of like everything, I want to see them succeed. I want to see them continue to, you know, grow and get bigger and everything. And, but just as a fan, I feel like they are treating All In as like a WrestleMania, as like, hey, this is a big show. We have geared up. Whereas, you know, we went last year and I didn't think they treated it as big of a deal. And then you got there and they're like, oh shit, there's like 80,000 people here. It's like, yeah, maybe you should have acted as if this was
like I
the
remember
biggest...
the discourse online was it was a lot of Americans going, why are all these Brits unhappy about the show they're getting? That multi-man match sounds great. And it's like, no, I don't think you get the importance of a Wembley Stadium for running this thing. And it should be treated like the biggest deal. And I think they are doing a better job at that. You mentioned Blood and Guts coming up next week. We had the main event on Dynamite this week of Swerve Strickland versus Okada in a bit of a kind of wet your whistle match, like a little taster of what this could be. After the match we had at the beginning of the show, I wasn't mad with this being like DQ non-finish. I think it's something we can get on a bigger stage down the line. And then we have the reveal that Darby Allin is rounding up Team AEW. Mark Briscoe not tipping us off at all by keep on looking up. When's he coming down? But yeah, this is next week. I think it'll be fun. You've got some fun characters in there. I imagine my theory is Hangman pins Swerve, which sets up for your All Out match. Once again for those two for the title.
That's definitely why like they're continuing that story, right? But then you're doing that thing where it's like, okay, why should we be focusing on this Chicago show when we have a stadium booked? Like, let's just fucking focus on that. And they really
but
like
they're not. They barely even mentioned All Out. Like I'm just saying it's something they can do to set up a potential thing.
I think it hurts them.
Whereas I think last year, they're going, we've got Darby Allin versus Luchasaurus at All Out. And they were announcing these matches, which felt weird. Whereas I feel they're setting themselves up a little bit more naturally that after the fallout of Wembley, you can have these matches ready to just fire off and announce.
Yeah, it's very strange because it's like, it's already booked. It's already happening. And again, it's 2 years in a row that they're doing it. But like, do you really need a second pay-per-view?
No,
right
absolutely
after?
Not.
No. So like, why? Like if it makes us who watch so much goddamn wrestling in a 24-hour period every day, every week, that even people like us are like, whew, this is a lot of wrestling. Like we just had a big show. Like WWE, you know, they do Backlash or whatever it is. They always tend to do a show right after WrestleMania. They'll wait a few weeks, maybe 3 weeks. And even that is like, okay, I mean, we just had a WrestleMania. Can we let things a little breathe? AEW's like, nah, we're just going to do this other show. So I imagine that Swerve beats Danielson and then Hangman v Swerve like one last time in an exploding barbed wire death match at All Out. I guess that's where we're going because it does like muddy the things with Hangman being, no, I don't like you guys, meaning the Elite, and then loses. And then he's like, actually, I want to be on this team because clearly he wants to, you know, attack Swerve or pin Swerve. So it's just a little odd. And then Danielson's just like, I just don't want to be champ, but I'm in the main event of your WrestleMania.
Are we completely ruling out Bryan winning?
He should win. He should just win. That would mess up, I guess, that kind of story. But really, it would completely, be interesting.
The other thing I see coming out of this is Okada Hangman for All In. So you don't necessarily have to have Hangman pinning, or it's quitting, isn't it? It's by quit. So you could just have
the blood and guts. Yeah, right.
Blood and guts. Yeah, it's just forfeit. So you could set up Okada Hangman that way, and maybe the Swerve thing's just red herring. Maybe it's, similar to the Danielson Eddie thing where, Eddie pulled out the gas can and all that, and that can get into a tussle between Okada and Hangman potentially. I think they've got to use this Blood and Guts as a way to set up a couple of your big matches. I assume we're getting Acclaimed and the Bucks at All In.
Yeah.
Coming out of this. And I just feel, again, it's, do we need to have Blood and Guts here?
No.
Like,
over it. Yeah, over it.
We went a couple of years ago to Blood and Guts. We were excited. It felt like a really big Dynamite. Whereas now that it feels like a stopgap and something we have to get through because it's Blood and Guts season. And you can move that to any other time of the year. You can put that on one of your pay-per-views or something. Just, I think this period, having those 3 big events back to back is just messy.
Yeah. Hey, let's put like, 10 of our stars that are probably going to be featured in our biggest show ever. Let's have them wrestle in a hardcore double cage match just weeks before. That nothing wrong with that, right? Not like we've had injuries in these matches before, right?
Yeah.
No, they'll be fine. They'll be completely fine. It's just crazy. It does not need to happen right now. I hope Acclaimed kind of step up. I feel like they've been missing a beat. I'm not quite sure what it is. You know, a lot of the AEW fans are the smart mark kind of internet fans, the wrestling community, like a lot of more people who are with it, like the IWC, if you want to call it that. A lot of the AEW fan base are more, you know, into what's going on online and everything like that, and they follow the discourse, and that affects like how people react or treat some of the stars. Whereas WWE, it's like families with kids who don't use Twitter or whatever. Like, they're just there to watch the stars. Where, you know, when Max Caster is Twitter fingers, I think it does affect how people kind of react to him or treat him. And I feel like that's something he's been very strange on his social media. I'm assuming it's some sort of a shtick or something, but I don't know if that's a reason why, like, they've kind of really cooled off. And it's almost like, should they just be heels again? But then they're facing the Bucks, who are the heels as well. So I do think that should be still the match. Like, the Acclaimed are still popular, but
you know, they're just the New Day of AEW, as in they're super popular, sell a lot of merch, and put on pretty good matches, but they need to evolve.
Yeah.
And I think New Day were in this position for years where it was just, oh, well, let's go back to the New Day. And their gimmick hadn't changed at all. There was no evolution, but they were still popular. You still look out in the crowd and there's a bunch of people in baby blue New Day shirts. There's a bunch of people in Scissor Daddy shirts and all that kind of thing. I think that it was on Collision this week, I think, wasn't it? Where Billy Gunn was kind of yelling at them and kind of being, you've got to find a bit of an edge. You're going to Blood and Guts. And hopefully we start to see that, because I do like the Acclaimed. And I don't necessarily think turning them heel is the way to go, but definitely changing up the act, you know, becoming a bit more sinister, a bit more heelish. A bit more of an edge,
more
showing
serious.
A bit more violence,
yeah,
more serious. And this is the match that can drag them out of it.
Yeah. Again, look, we go to a lot of shows. We haven't been to an AEW show in a little while, but we've been to shows literally in Canada, US, and we went to Wembley. Like, they're a popular act. People I see people in Scissor Me shirts in public. Like, the people do buy their t-shirts. It's just like, they do need to kind of go to that next step. They do need to evolve to become maybe considered like a really viable, stronger act. Like, yeah, they've been champions before, but I think they should beat the Bucks at Wembley and win the titles, and that might like help, you know, bring them back. I think to last year they were, you know, really over. The crowd were crazy chanting in the Scissor Me stuff, and it's not really gone away. I just think they need to maybe step up. And you know, like the Max Caster raps, where I'm sure he'll come out on Wednesday and rap about Joe Biden again. It's like, what does that have to do with anything anymore? I don't think rapping about the latest news stories is helping your character. Whereas, like, I think back to the other most popular rapping gimmick in wrestling, John Cena, he would at least use it and like rip out his opponent and not go off about, like, you know, politics or whatever it is. So I feel like that he needs to kind of adjust that a little bit more too. So I hope they do kind of step up, though, because I'm sure a lot of people are looking at Blood and Guts this week like, oh, it's the Acclaimed. Like, look at this team AEW, where it's like the Acclaimed and Mark Briscoe are part of it, where it's like, okay, I think they have to prove a lot of people wrong, and hopefully they do. I mean, we know Mark is hitting the froggy bow off something high. He's jumping off the cage.
Darby's dying again,
and then not being injured at all. I don't know what that guy. Tony Schiavone's like, yeah, this guy was recently hit by a bus. He was upside down. He got kicked in the face, and anyways, he's wrestling a fucking bull on Collision. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess he's fine. But that's also seems like it's announced, or not announced, but we kind of assumed Darby versus Jack Perry at Wembley, which I think is a great choice as well. And I think they should make that some sort of, I don't know, hardcore match or something. And I'm assuming we get some sort of anarchy stadium stampede kind of thing as well, like we did last year. So I'm looking forward to after Blood and Guts, so we can just focus on like the biggest show you guys got going. But I've still really been enjoying what they've been putting out.
Was there anything from Dynamite before we move to Collision?
Yes. I mean, we talked about Mariah May last week when she beat up Toni Storm, and it was such a great angle. But I really loved her coming out dressed as Toni Storm. She really looked like her, and I know she's a blonde and Tony's a blonde, but like from the movements to the hair to like the facial reactions, I thought this was an underrated segment as well. Mariah May has totally stepped up, and
she's been great.
Fantastic. Yeah, like one of the best things going for sure. And I can't wait for that match. So I feel like the crowd in London will be screaming for both Mariah and Toni, considering, Toni might not be from the UK, but she's made herself famous there. And this character she's got for the past while has been pretty popular. So I'm pretty into this storyline. And I thought Mariah is just like knocking it out the park recently. And then I'm trying to think. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go for it.
No. I was just going to say, I completely agree. I think she's been brilliant, and I'm really looking forward to that match.
So, I mean, this week's episode of Dynamite, I mean, most of it was that first match, which again, I'm not angry about at all. But then there's other stuff that's going on. We had, for some reason, Minoru Suzuki. He's not in the G1, so he's like, yeah, I'll have a feud with Chris Jericho for some reason.
It's like he came out too early on his cue. But when I say too early, I mean like 3 weeks early, because they set this match up before Forbidden Door, and then it was like, no, that's not the match we're having. Yeah, you had Suzuki like calling out Jericho on Forbidden Door,
and
then
weird.
Nothing happened, and it's just like he got his diary dates mixed up, and it's like,
well, you know what happened? Oh, you know what happened? He was on the subway for that DDT match, and he didn't have any data.
Yeah,
he was
maybe
underground, and then actually it was an above ground TTC train, but very strange that it's happening. I know these guys are buds, and it's like, it's kind of cool, but I think a little too late. Like, I think about a year or two ago, people would have been like, oh shit. But now it's like, this is like the worst iteration of Jericho versus Murder Grandpa, where it's like,
we've seen the Suzuki stuff so much now as well. I feel the novelty's kind of worn off with that. But for a show like next week, where you're going to have most of the second hour be Blood and Guts, I guess it's okay to throw on. But yeah, I'm not enjoying the Learning Tree stuff and Chris Jericho whatsoever.
Yeah, it's very, very bizarre. Again, like this, a majority of their audience, though, they see Chris Jericho and they go, oh shit, I used to love this guy. I used to watch this guy. We see this every time where people are like, oh, why is Jericho still wrestling? Why is he still doing? He still gets a reaction, where some people come out and it's fucking crickets. Whereas this guy's, love him or hate him, he is a legend, and he does still have fans that, he attracts. But again, most of the audience of AEW is the like smart kind of people, and they're really over him. And I feel like he's just leaning into that even more so. But I don't think he's going to be going away anytime. He should.
I don't think it's clever though. I don't find it entertaining at all. And I know he's just leaning into that to turn his legitimate heat into what's perceived as wrestling heat. But like,
X-Pac hate.
He comes across as Eugene to me, to be honest. This character,
maybe those two have a lot more in common. Than
100%. But yeah, I literally just I'm not watching it at the moment. Like, that comes on, I'll focus on cooking dinner or go and have a shit or something. Like, it's really like the least interested I'm in anything in AEW is anything to do with Jericho right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like,
and sorry, but like Big Bill was on such a great trajectory. I thought the stuff with him and Ricky Starks was great, and I thought he had the real opportunity to break out as a singles big man, and now he's just back into his third, his fourth faction in this company.
I'd say at least it's giving him some reps. I feel like coming out of this, he will be better. Like he has become way more comfortable, at least talking. And I don't know. It's not good. It's not good. There's no denying it. And I don't even know what they can do to salvage it or save it or whatever, because we can jump into
kill it.
Like at this point, I don't know what you do, because Jericho just has that go away heat with him right now. And I think it's time to go back to the drawing board and just sit out for a little bit. Like, we don't need you right now, but maybe people see him on the poster and they still, I love wrestling because Chris Jericho, and they buy a ticket or something. Maybe that's their thought process there. But did you happen to chance to watch Collision?
Yeah, I was kind of flicking between Collision and Slammiversary last night. I was curious in who or what hologram was going to be. I was curious to see this new esports arena in Texas that they were in, and to see what they've done with this mess of a trio story that they've had going on Collision.
Oh, I mean, that's another story. That's bottom of the barrel right now. I don't care about these triple trios titles. I mean, triple because there's like three of them, 3 different titles that they have. This is pretty cool. Okay, so Collision's been a show I don't normally watch, but I did kind of skim through it this week. I was interested to see what would the look going to be with this esports stadium thing, Arlington, Texas. And my first few thoughts of it were like, okay, it's kind of like the Impact Zone. It's kind of like NXT, a bit bigger than that, I guess. But like 1,000 people, if that they seat in this thing. They said it sold out, so like that's pretty cool. And like an issue they've been having is, why are we booking these shows that only get like 1,000 people in like 20,000 seat venues, whereas they finally scale it down where it will be like much louder. It'll sound a bit much, maybe a bit better. Of course, you're going to have your critics being like, oh, look, there's only 1,000 people here in this small ass venue. It's like, yeah, it's Collision. It's not like one of their big pay-per-views. I mean, you'll look at Wembley and be like, okay, there's 40,000, 50,000 people. But with the history of like Texas, actually, I don't want to say they're kind of going for the Sportatorium vibes. Like, hey, we're going to throw shows here every week for the next little while, and show up if you want. And then as I'm thinking that, the Von Erichs show up backstage as well. So I thought that was pretty cool. And if they're smart, they're going to have them wrestle like next week. I know the show ended with an off-air segment with Shibata asking Von Erich to do the claw on him, which was very, very sick. And I think that should have been on fucking TV, because maybe someone watching would be like, oh shit, Iron Claw and all that stuff. So I think that's pretty cool, but I don't necessarily think this is going to continue to make a lot of people interested in Collision. I still think it's kind of a product that's very, B, C level, comparing it to some of your other stuff. It's tough because they have a Rampage and they have a Collision, which are both their like I said, B or C shows. And it's a lot of content to take in. And WWE, we know, is for years done more is more. Oh, we have 2-night WrestleMania. Fuck it. Why not a 2-night SummerSlam? Why not a 2-night this? Whereas AEW is like, yeah, we'll do that too. We'll have 3 shows a week or this. And I think that's not helping them. I think it's like oversaturating the whole product, really. And it's cool because you get to have people like that maybe not get to focus all the time wrestling, and that's what it's about. But it can definitely add to the wrestle fatigue when there's just like so much, and it's like, okay, should I tune into Collision? And then you tune in and it's like, oh, okay, well, it's just these guys wrestling. I don't really want to watch that, or I don't really need to see that.
It depends what you're watching it for, what your lifestyle is, that kind of thing. Like, if you're just, I think back in the day when I was getting into wrestling, when I was a kid, I would watch everything. I'd watch the replays. I'd watch
Velocity,
Heat, Velocity, Metal, Shotgun, like all of those shows, your main events later on. And I think if you're just a fan of wrestling and you're a fan of AEW, I think Collision's usually pretty enjoyable, but it's not like it's not important. Like Collision and Rampage are not important at this stage, and they fill you in on Dynamite on anything that you do need to have seen. They'll let you know in a quick package. But as a show on its own, for like, I've been to a few Collisions, I've enjoyed it when I've gone. As a wrestling show, it's fine. They're getting money from doing it, and I do feel with fans you're in a lose-lose position because every week they're doing Collision in a big basketball arena with 2,000 people, and the atmosphere is diabolical. And then you put 2,000 people in an arena where it's packed and it sounds good, but it looks small, and whoa, that looks shit. They're not going to have 20,000 people at these things. It's just not happening at this stage. I do think it's the right move. I thought it looked right. I was expecting more the way they were building up this hologram entrance. I thought it would be something a bit cooler than it was. But but no,
the Power Ranger.
Yeah, but I thought the setting looked good. I think for this show, to give it its own unique feel, and hopefully it gets a bit of a thing that you see with NXT, which you get some characters who organically get really over because it's the same crowd seeing them every week. It becomes your local thing. Oh, it's Saturday night, I'll go to Collision, and you get these characters who get really unfathomably over because they feel part of it. They see this guy every week. They go to these events. So I think you could get something similar to that. And I personally think they should try it out once this residency's over. Look at moving to Collision, to more these kind of settings, moving around. Do a Toronto residency. Do a wherever. Do a Florida residency for a little bit and do a couple of months and then move on. Because it does look not as impressive as Dynamite, but the show's not as impressive as Dynamite. And I personally would take this over crickets.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, at least the crowd were like hot for this because all these people really wanted to be there, where it's like 20,000, half of it's empty, or 2/3 of it are empty. It's like, kind of looks a little weird. To put some positives, I did kind of cherry pick some of Collision last night, and it kicked off with Darby Allin and the black Ford. What is it? Ford Fiesta? Sorry, the Beast
Mortis.
The Beast Mortis, which that dude, I feel like if they announce that dude in a match, I watch it. And this did not disappoint. In fact, I think you got your money's worth going to the show if you got to see this match, because this was pretty awesome. Darby is such a great, what's the opposite of a base god? Because Beast Mortis is a good base god, but what's like the opposite? Like the guy who just bounces off. Yeah, like he just flies around and gets thrown around like ragdoll. This was really a fun match, and definitely was like, okay, this was pretty good, and the crowd are really into it. I love that. So hopefully maybe we get a rematch down the line. I know they had some matches before AEW, but then I kind of cherry picked through some of the other stuff. I wanted to check out what the deal with Hologram, and will it be Ricochet or no? It's not. It's who is this? They changed his name, right?
Aramis.
Yeah, that's right.
I think we've seen this match in person, haven't we? Haven't we seen Aramis v Gringo?
It's possible. Yeah, probably. Gringo at Parkdale Hall this Thursday, teaming with Arez, I think. But I don't know if this lived up to, if there was hype for this. I mean, his vignettes were pretty much like a Power Ranger type thing going through some sort of portal. And then the guy shows up and it's just like he's got a light up jacket that he borrowed from like Chris Jericho or something. So it wasn't anything that kind of stood out. He got to face Gringo, which to us, that's our boy. And I would like to see a lot more of him on Collision. So I don't think it necessarily lived up to them. Like they're trying, this is their first time they're trying almost like their own gimmicks. Like we're renaming you, we're giving you this gimmick. I think the name is cool. I think he kind of does look like a little kid in a Power Rangers costume. So I'm not completely sold just yet. I mean, there's like 20 other wrestlers that can do diving hurricane ranas and, you know, Spanish flies and stuff. And I don't know if necessarily this is the one that's going to get people like, oh shit, I better tune in to watch Hologram, but it's only the first week. So
I thought he looked.
You thought he looked cool?
I don't know. Something just fell in my room.
Ghost.
No, I thought he looked good, like wrestling wise. I mean, Gringo is one of the best faces out there, and they do know each other pretty well, I believe. And also, happy birthday, Gringo. It was his birthday yesterday.
Yes.
No, I thought he looked pretty impressive. I didn't think much of the gear or the entrance. Like, I was reading stuff that they were really going to try something pretty cool with this esports arena for his entrance. I didn't really think it was much different from anything else. But yeah, I appreciate that they're like, AEW haven't really done this, vignettes, building up someone new and that kind of thing. And I did think it achieved, you know, like when I was watching last night and flicking between the two, I was like, oh, it's the hologram segment. I want to watch that over what's going on Slammiversary, because I am curious what it looks like. And is it Sammy Guevara? Is it Ricochet or whoever? You know,
Fuego
like,
del Sol.
So I think from that point of view, it achieved in, you know, a little bit of promotion, at least got me flicking on to see what that was all about.
You mentioned, like, you know, when you're a kid and watching wrestling, it's characters like that you definitely gravitate to. And I think he would be one where a kid would be like, oh, whoa, this cool, flashy looking thing. I just think, again, this is week one. I just think maybe you could do a little bit more to make him stand out, because even, like you said, even his entrance was not very, like, there's a lot of cooler people. Rey Mysterio used to pop out of the goddamn ground. This guy just shows up with a light up jacket. I'm like,
well,
I can go to Spencer's too.
I thought we were going to get like hologram.
Yeah.
Like,
his name is hologram.
Kind of now, I don't know if, it was whether they were trying to do something and in the end it didn't work out. So they just did it a bit more basic. But
yeah,
I thought you were going to, like, you have that effect with Axiom on NXT, don't you? You know, the blurring effect. I thought they'd be doing something like that, or using holograms, like live holograms or something. You know, having like 5 of them and you don't know which one is the real one, and then
multiple man.
One. Yeah, I don't know, just something cool.
No, like he kind of looked like Axiom. He kind of looked like budget Axiom a little bit. I don't like Axiom's mask, and this kind of gave me those vibes. But again, maybe they're tweak. They want to tweak it, or maybe because of this venue they couldn't do it. I don't know, but like, considering the guy is a hologram and the vignettes is him going through the portal and stuff, I think they could have created something. You remember like Ricochet's WWE thing? He had that light that came down. It almost looked like a hologram, right? Like, you know, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of thing. I think he could, I guess, benefit from that. But again, it comes down to the wrestling too. You're just some other like kid in a lucha mask. There's a lot of other people who can do that kind of stuff. So there needs to be something that makes him stand out just a little bit different. And you know, I guess you're right. Give them all the power for actually trying vignettes is something they don't usually do. So maybe going forward, they'll try that with like other wrestlers and other characters. But it was cool to see Gringo. Gringo needs to be the one beating people on Collision though, because he's awesome.
Yeah,
we love him.
Unfortunately, Skye Blue got injured on Collision last night. Pretty
feel for her.
Yeah, pretty nasty dive. Took her knee out. It looked like.
Something about her ankle.
The niece Ray Phoenix thing was just impromptu to kind of fill time, but yeah, it didn't look good. So all the best to her.
Yeah, it looks like she's now home. I saw Kyle Fletcher posting that he got her home, and she's got her whole leg wrapped up in something. So it looks like this will be taking her off TV for some time at least. So get better, Skye Blue.
And then the Patriarchy winning the vacated Trios Championship. This was so convoluted and unnecessary, this whole thing. So you had Jay White was taken out, so he couldn't defend the title. So Juice Robinson stepped in, which meant they were going to free bird rule it, which in the past in AEW has been fine. Remember Samoa Joe stepping in with MJF when Cole was injured.
I was going to say, MJF like defended the titles as a solo act.
With different partners, yeah. But Christopher Daniels was like, I'm so sorry, but like that ain't what happens with our trios belts.
Wow.
So stripped them of the titles to have them face the Patriarchy for the vacated titles, and then the the patriarchy win. Why couldn't we have just been, your partner's injured, you've got another partner, cool, and you lose the titles.
So bizarre.
No
it's the little things that's like, you could have avoided all of this by just having Juice step in. And they're like, he can have the title. I guess trying to make it like muster up some interest in the story, but
it was so stupid.
Yeah, pretty stupid. I mean, when they introduced these titles, they tried to treat them like such a big deal, but then we realize, a year or two removed, it's like, oh, what other trios do we have? And do people really care about these things? I mean, these titles were really just to keep the Acclaimed busy while like the tag titles were doing other things. And now it's like, it's really to keep other acts busy. And, Christian's got another title to his wing. So that's cool, I guess. But pretty bizarre.
It's a way to get Christian on Wembley, really, isn't it?
Which he's still a popular character, right? Like, he still is. So if anything, they're just props and stuff, but it's to give some characters something to do. So I guess so, but not the most interesting storyline, I guess, going forward. I don't even know what other trios they got.
It makes this whole authority thing so bizarre. I don't get it. It's Tony Khan got taken out, so you had the Elite step in, and they were the authority figures. And then Christopher Daniels came in to kind of combat that. But Tony Khan's there every week now anyway, booking matches as well. So it kind of makes these two rivaling authorities.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like redundant. And then you got Christopher Daniels being like, oh, I don't want to do this, but it's out of my hands. Well, are you the authority figure or not? Either sign it off or not. It just feels... all of this feels half-baked, and I think you're getting that with the Blood and Guts match, where the initial angle, taking out Tony Khan was fantastic, but I just don't think the follow-up, I don't really feel like it's been the Elite running amok over the whole company. I don't think we need Christopher Daniels, and certainly when we keep on panning and seeing Tony Khan sat in Gorilla with the headset on anyway, and Shivani's still going, oh, and I've just got this through from Tony Khan, like, why, like, it's just not well thought out, I don't think. And this whole trios debacle was like part of that, I thought.
You know what? I think they are. I love the Young Bucks, and I liked the beginning of this angle with them taking out Tony Khan. But they've definitely like not done enough. Just having them backstage hanging out with Mercedes, like, okay, cool. But there's not a lot of fans here, and you're acting as they're the delusional, like, CEO kind of EVPs and everything, which, okay, but I just think there's a lot more that they could do or lean into to get heat in the right way. And instead they're just like, I don't know, it's lazy. I don't know if these guys are legit busy doing other stuff that they can't have time to come up with things, but like they need to have like producers or people writers help running this show and help creating things. Cause just having them being there and trying to be dickheads. Like, again, I'm a Buck supporter, and even I am like, okay, like, can you do something at least entertaining? The last thing entertaining they did was the TK driver on TK. So like, but that was a while ago now. And like, there hasn't really been a follow-up. Like, why would Swerve care to fight these guys? Why would the Acclaimed, I guess, are beefing with them, but like, doesn't really make sense. And I guess the other elephant in the room is Okada, because months ago in the last year, we're like, wow, like, is Okada leaving New Japan? Where's he going to go? Is he actually going to go to WWE? No. If he goes to WWE, they just make him some foreigner comedy gimmick. And yet here he is in AEW as a comedy gimmick, which is just bizarre. Where in WWE, he'd probably be putting on fucking main events or something. Look, they're going to be rolling out the red carpet for Marufuji at SummerSlam, whether he's, just doing commentary for the Japanese commentary or whatever. But like, Okada just shows up and says bitch every week. It's like, okay, like, you're fucking one of the best. Are we just keeping you on the cooler for right now? Things going on, or
I haven't minded it so far. Like, I think they're still treating him as a star. Like, yeah, he's got these comedic elements, but I think it's far removed from being Funaki or Akira Tozawa. I feel he like is the punchline, but he's not the butt of the joke all the time. Right. You know what I mean? And he does still have one of the 62 titles. I think he is still going to be having these big matches.
What title is he?
It's a matter of, he's Continental. But I think it's a matter of, again, getting over this this blood and guts hump so we can go to whatever Okada's singles match is. Now, if we end up doing Anarchy in the Arena with the Elite or Stadium Stampede or whatever, I'm completely against that. And then I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? You've got a stadium show and you're having Okada in a multi-man match. And Khan made that mistake last year a few times with a few different matches.
Yeah.
But I do feel we'll be getting a big singles marquee match. I think it will be Hangman. And so I don't mind. I'd much rather him showing personality this way and winning over people that aren't familiar with him than just being a silent killer. I think at the moment, I think people will see what he can do. But
again, they can't just put him in the title picture.
Like
he still
hasn't been comedy that's made me groan. Like he's got a laugh out of me every time.
I'd say in the last little while, it's finally getting to the point. I'm like, okay, yeah, all right, say your line. Yep, okay, say it. Okay, bitch. Yep, all right. It's like I would like to see a bit more, but like I said, I think they're purposely waiting because they have too many cooks with like the title picture and everything, and you can't just shoehorn him in there and everything. So it kind of makes sense that they're having him here, but he just hasn't done a whole lot since coming into AEW and match wise. Like this guy used to be just the definition of aura for, Japanese wrestling fans. And here he is just kind of the side character and stuff, but hopefully they get to a more fleshed out character down the line, which I think they eventually will. I hope it is Okada Hangman at Wembley. But yeah, so Collision, their first week here at the Sportatorium, the E-Sportatorium.
So then it came out that this is part of an agreement and there's potentially going to be a stadium show in Arlington. Now,
all in?
I assume, yeah, y'all in. Go from all in it to y'all in.
Y'all in?
So, like, I assume, yeah, all in 2025, but that's ambitious. Yeah, I mean, if it's Cowboys Stadium, if that's because that stadium in Arlington, maybe it's. I would, in a way, hope it's more like a smaller, maybe college stadium or something like that. But I think that's ambitious.
This is the stadium they've done Mania in. This is the stadium that Mike Tyson's going to be fighting at, right?
Assuming that is the one they're looking at, which is the main stadium in Arlington. But maybe it's something smaller somewhere else. But it's that's a huge stadium.
Arlington is adjacent to Dallas?
Yeah, it's outside Dallas. Yeah.
Okay, so they want to fill this. You just announced the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, and then they'll sell that bad boy out. No, I mean, this is very ambitious. And if this is in another year from now, if this is legit by any means, like that's a lot of work. I don't know if they could fill it. They definitely won't be able to sell it out, but to get like, let's say ballparking minimum at best 40,000. Like that's what they're aiming for with Wembley.
40 there still isn't going to look great. Whereas there are 40,000 seat stadiums that would look incredible.
Yeah.
I think Wembley, like European shows, because they don't get as many big shows, although they are starting to.
Yeah.
That helps. It's ambitious. I mean, you'd have to you'd have to hope that the popularity of AEW increases over the next year and that people would want to make the trip. Like we're the kind of target people, aren't we? We're the people where we could potentially get a flight to Dallas and go to this thing. We'd weigh it up. Okay, can we afford this? Like we've done these trips before. What would they do to make us think this is going to be worth it? We've already done an all in. What would make us go back? And I think it's not, for me, it's not necessarily announcing some big matches like close to it. Like obviously that is going to be something, but it's going to be more faith in the product for a longer term where that this is going to be, they're building this up to be their biggest show of all time. And that's what would make me, start looking at, okay, well, let's look at accommodation. Let's factor this thing out.
So you going?
I don't know. As I said, I'd have to have a bit more faith in the product. I think there's a whole lot that Tony Khan doesn't necessarily realize. Like that Cardiff show hasn't sold out yet, which is kind of surprising. And you've got to do a bit more promotion because you can't, especially somewhere like a London, you can't just on a whim be, oh, I'm going to go to London this weekend to watch that show. Accommodation's expensive, and especially leaving it last minute. You want to start planning months before and be, okay, I'm going to try and find a cheap room, find a train before the trains rocket up, all that kind of thing. So it's same kind of thing. Whereas I think, WWE, to an extent, although the product, it's only recently been getting better, I think they've had such trust in the brand of WrestleMania where you look at the city and go, oh, that's somewhere I'd like to visit. And you're going to get a spectacle, even if the show is not like an incredible wrestling show. Like that's what sold it for me in the past with WrestleMania. It's, oh, I'd really love to go to New Orleans, and whatever show they get, I hope it's as good as possible. But you go and there's fireworks and there's stars, and it feels like a spectacle when you go.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been to Texas, and you've definitely sung its praises to me, and I just want some barbecue. So if that makes the excuse to go, then like definitely. I see the Psycho 45 in our chat says, lived in Arlington last 5 years. It's right between Dallas and Fort Worth, and the Cowboy Stadium would be too big. However, Globe Life Field is right where the Rangers play, and it might be more their size. And apparently it's like the venue next door. So, I mean, maybe that's maybe that's something they would look at.
40,000. Yeah, that would be way better.
Yeah. Let us know. Should we make the trip if they do announce this? They should do one here. WWE is not going to do WrestleMania at the Rogers Center / Skydome. It's just too small. They just did like millions of dollars of renovations and for Taylor Swift, and it's still like way too small for WWE. But for AEW, it would be pretty ambitious to do there. And we thought before All In was announced for the first one, there was kind of rumblings that some people claimed that AEW had reached out to try to set something up for the Skydome, and that's still something that they could do. And I think maybe that would get a lot of people, like a huge wrestling event at the Dome, which WWE has not done. But I do imagine WWE doing a show like a Rumble or something in that stadium in the near future. But very interesting and very ambitious if it's true that they're going to be trying to do that. But do they just keep doing Wembley? Like that's going to wear off, as we've already seen 1 year removed. So maybe they need to switch it up. Other than Texas or, like I said, Toronto, where else could they do this? Right? Like where else? Like Japan, they're doing a co-promoted show in the Tokyo Dome on January 5th, which is pretty cool, I guess. So like I don't think they'd sell out the Tokyo Dome by any means either. New Japan can't even do that.
I don't think their product's popular over there.
No.
Why would you make the majority of your audience spend fuckloads of money to go to Japan?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I don't think Japan would be a thing. A Mexico show it would be easier for Americans and stuff to get to. I mean Texas isn't a bad idea. Like it's especially like Dallas Fort Worth Airport is a hub. Like I've had so many like flights that have connected at that airport to go elsewhere, so it's a good hub to travel into. And
let's go.
Pecan Lodge barbecue, pretty good.
You said barbecue, and that's the only 3 letters I'm traveling for. AEW is nice, but BBQ is what I'd travel for. So you know what? If they announce that, I think I'd consider going, even though people are saying, oh, AEW they're going down, they're declining. I think it'd be pretty cool if they did that.
Maybe where they should go to is Montreal, the home of the true number 2 pro wrestling company out there, as TNA Slammiversary took place last night and had a sellout crowd around 4,000 people. And they sounded hot all night. And I know you were working, but managed to catch some of this. I was flicking between this show and Collision and not watching Matt Hardy, basically. But what were your thoughts of Slammiversary?
Yeah, I mean, hey, look, shout out TNA for getting their biggest crowd in like 12 years or something like that. 4,000 people when they usually are drawing the 800 to 1,000, and it was kind of weird on the same night AEW is doing their smaller venue where TNA was kind of flourishing and having such a big crowd. I feel like PCO might be the big reason with him being like such a hometown kind of wrestling guy. He's been doing the indies in all of Canada for the past few years, and finally giving him that big spot is pretty cool. The same with Speedball, but I think it's a little bit of a perfect storm of why this was pretty successful for them, and I'm sure they'll be coming back. But maybe this will help start the ball rolling for people jumping back on TNA. But I'll say out the gate, I won't be one of them. I watched some of last night's show, and sorry, your pay-per-view starts off with Matt Hardy versus Fandango. Okay. And then what was the next match? Was it Alicia Edwards? You tricked me though. You were like, oh, Braden, Matt Hardy's off. You can tune in now. So I tune in and it's fucking Eddie Edwards' wife. I never shut my laptop so quick in my entire life. I was like, you bastard. And then on top of that, it was Jake something and Mike Santana, which I know people like Mike Santana. I like negative aura for me. One of my least favorite wrestlers to watch. I find him incredibly boring, and it's cool that he got a singles match on a pay-per-view, but not for me. And then finally, I feel like
Santana, because I do think he's got something, but I think it's too late. Proud and Powerful were LAX, whatever you want to call them, were a hot act. We've talked about on this show before how they never really they were stuck in the Jericho verse for so long, and they never had that tag title run in AEW, which I think they deserved. And I think they are both better as a team than in singles. But Santana did show stuff. I remember those Inner Circle days with promos, and Santana would get on the mic and you'd go like, oh, this guy's got something. Remember the feud with Moxley, and he was cutting the promo about his dad who lost his vision in his eye and that kind of thing. There has been stuff I've liked about Santana, and he can wrestle, but I think it's more just circumstances. I appreciate a guy betting on himself, but I kind of think he'd be potentially in a better position just with his old tag partner doing things.
Yeah, you can't knock a guy for hey, I don't want to be a tag team wrestler. I want to be my own guy. I'm going to break through, and if I'm a lost fish in AEW, maybe I'll be a bigger fish in a TNA. So all the power to him. Just from what I've seen, it's still you're just, I don't know, it's pretty boring. But I'll try to be positive when talking about.
I think the Alicia Edwards match you skipped over was actually ABC defeating the System with Alicia on the outside.
And ABC are good, right?
Pretty fun match, actually. Okay,
so you had Hakushida on the pre-show, which was a pretty interesting look for Kushida, dressed like Hakushi. But then, you start your pay-per-view off with Matt Hardy. Okay. I think if you were to slide that in the middle of the show somewhere to get, maybe they just wanted to get over with, but maybe Matt Hardy still brings in some fans and stuff. I'm sure he's a name in the wrestling world. But yeah, I'd say the first three matches, the star power is okay, interesting. But then the Rascals kind of reforming with all three members dressed like Buzz Lightyear, taking on the No Quarter Catch crew. And of course, we're the NXT boys. So we had to check out NXT representation on a TNA pay-per-view. And I thought this match was pretty good. Seeing the Rascals last week versus Gallus just kind of wet our whistle. And here there was all sorts of craziness with them flying all over the place, and all the power to Tavion Heights, Miles Bourne, and Charlie Dempsey, because they're fantastic and they're becoming some of my favorite things to see in NXT. And Tavion and Miles. I mean, I think we give a pass to Dempsey. I'm not calling him a Nepo baby because he's actually really good, but you give him a pass. It's you're Regal's kid. You're in no matter what. You could be terrible and you'll probably be on main roster no matter what you do. But the other two have completely stepped up. But I think they're two incredible young talents that we have here in NXT. But I love the Rascals taking on NQCC, as I try to remember the abbreviations there.
Yeah, I thought this was fun. Again, similar to what we said on NXT last week, where it was just really nice seeing the Rascals together again. Seeing them in TNA together again, I thought was like equally as kind of feel good and emotional. And I would put the recent NXT crossover down to a lot of these ticket sales as well, because I think people were tuning in to kind of or attending because tickets were reasonably priced for this to start with. And you go, oh, well, I get to see some of those WWE superstars and who knows what will show up. I think Joe Hendry being on NXT TV has definitely upped his star power. And I think this match was something, that kind of the little bit of the Forbidden Door sort of thing opening up definitely helped sell this show. I know I saw comments from Jordan Grace who said that because she said earlier in the week that you won't believe the surprises that we have coming up on Slammiversary. And the surprise was Earl Hebner showing up later. But she says that it was down to the global tech outage that's going on and that thousands of flights being cancelled, and that maybe there were more tricks up the sleeve that we didn't see. Although, TNA over-promising stuff has been a trope throughout the year.
No.
But I do feel like there was probably something else planned during the night that maybe WWE being nervous, like, okay, we've already promoted this match, but we want to make sure our guys are back on Tuesday, and who knows what's going on with these cancelled flights. Possibly. Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, that is true. Like, that could have been something. Again, maybe you just didn't need to say that and get people's hopes up. But that's, again, such a TNA thing they've been doing since Dixie Carter. Like, every week. You weren't there, Davey. Every week they'd be like, you got to tune in next week. Someone's coming. And then it'd be like,
the foundations of the universe.
Oh, okay. It's so-and-so. What do you think? I know you're a big Toy Story fan. I'm not, don't get this mixed up. I'm not hating on the Buzz Lightyear gear from the Rascals. I'm just saying that there's three of you. One of you could have been Buzz. There's so many other cool characters in Toy Story that maybe you could have mixed around. We've seen a lot of people dress up as Buzz in wrestling.
I think they wanted to keep the theme of the green. So
yeah.
I thought it looked pretty cool. And you know what? On a show, I'm over Eddie Guerrero tribute spots, and I'm over Bret Hart tribute spots. And throughout the night, so many people wearing the pink and black, all the heels wearing US colors to show their heels. So many, we'll get to the Ali match, but the sharpshooter spots. So I thought it was refreshing. I thought it looked, their gear looked pretty good compared to it looked like, proper Stars gear that they were wearing. And although I think, was it B Detroit pointed out, was it Wes that looked like he was wearing a diaper?
It was a little too small for him. Yeah.
A Buzz nappy. But yeah, I thought they looked good, and I enjoyed this match.
See, I just one of them could have had Buzz, and then you had the wings. I mean, Woody, I guess you'd just be a cowboy, but someone needed to be Rex. He's
Rex.
Green, right?
True.
Sid. I'm trying to think. What I'm trying to say is I love when people do this with their gear. So I'm not shitting on it. I'm just it made my mind think ooh, what other Disney related, anything related. We always get superhero tie-ins, but doing the Disney route, which I guess considered now Marvel and everything, but it's cool to see. So more of that down the line.
It could have been the three aliens,
Exactly. Green. Yeah. The three aliens. Oh man. Yeah. I always wanted one of those aliens.
We have Benny in the chat who says PCO has been on every local radio show, TV, and French podcast in Quebec for the last 2 months. He did an amazing PR job to sell this event. Yeah, and I think that's something that AEW lacks on. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to any of Steph's comments on the media show they did at Wide Open, but also her article comparing AEW to WWE, and just how the level of promotion that WWE do when you're going to a city, and the access to talent. We've tried to set up interviews with AEW talent. We did the Mercedes interview, and it was kind of hard work to organize. Whereas WWE, they give you in person Chelsea Green, they give you in person LA Knight, they give you these people. And
it's okay. That's two different things. WWE, AEW is definitely trying to follow what they do, because WWE, you need to go through their agents. You can't just reach out.
I'm not saying just doing a podcast. I'm saying when you're promoting a thing, WWE will reach out to posts. And John they'll have their 5 superstars that they have that you have access to, and they have their media day, and you have everyone who's got a media pass interviewing all of those superstars. And it's on there. Like, you go on YouTube and it's all like, it's Chris Van Vliet interviewing such and such, Steph interviewing someone, John interviewing someone. It's all of that. Whereas AEW, it's like, it's over Zoom. It feels like they're doing you a favor. Whereas, like, you just had this Benny guy saying PCO has been on every show for 2 months.
Yeah.
We know, we ask about the UK. Are people on, have you got your wrestlers on morning television, like advertising this, on radio advertising this? You've worked in TV and radio. How much you've got some local bump up thing going on, and you get someone on, promote the car show you've got going on, promote. Oh,
it's so true. I complained about it.
Yeah,
for AEW, all the times they've come to Toronto, we've criticized. I work in TV. I'm like, where's the advertisements for this? WWE, if they announce a show in 6 months from now, they'll have LA Knight here tomorrow promoting the show. They'll fly him in to promote the show. AEW's been doing it, but they've been doing it like, hey, come tonight to Dynamite.
It's
like,
too late.
Well, that's fucking too late. I can't get the work off, or I can't buy the tickets now, or like, it's too late. You got to think ahead of this. And I think promotions is something that's very, very big. Whether it's look at the state of like music and touring, where like big artists are canceling their tours and stuff like that. Maybe it's not because of bad promotions, because of ticket expenses and prices, but like, yeah, promotion is something that so needs to be better for other wrestling. And Benny in the chat, shout out for bringing that up, because like I said, I'm pretty sure it's PCO that sold these tickets, because this guy has been their wrestling like legend
all over the show, catering to their audience, having, like French Canadian ring announcers and that kind of thing. Like I thought they did a good job, and it looked good. Some of those like wide shots, I actually thought they could have lit this crowd better to show how full it was. Because when you had that shot from like behind, you go, wow, that's a lot of people there for this pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, this must be the biggest crowd some of them have wrestled in, considering like they've never they always get like 1,000 people and stuff. So it's really cool. PCO wrestled last night. PCO coming back from the dead to take on AJ Francis. Top Dollar. I think Top Dollar has got to be, I'm sorry, all the power to him, and I respect the hustle and the grind, but he's got to be one of the worst wrestlers going today. And PCO and him still had a pretty decent match. It was all plunder. It was all silliness and stupidity, but that's what PCO has been. Like, if you don't like wrestling, if you don't like this kind of stuff, you probably won't watch TNA, because like he's been doing this shtick for quite a while with, whether he's Frankenstein's monster or he's coming out of a casket and whatnot. So like, you knew what you were going to get into if you were watching this. And I thought for what it was, they made the best of it. And shout out PCO, who's got to be like in his 50s, taking that spot on the chairs, which was just gnarly looking there. That was pretty awesome. And I mean, I guess I give him credit. I wasn't sure about this title that they were talking, the double title thing, but it's like this title that it's alluded PCO, some French,
some Montreal
title
or something.
Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. The Canadian International Heavyweight title, apparently. So like, that's pretty cool and interesting that they brought that back. But at the end of the day, it was still Top Dollar versus like a 52-year-old dude or something. So
hey, I unashamedly loved this, and it was in my top 3 matches of the night, I'd say. I thought it was just so much fun. The crowd were into it. It didn't overstay its welcome. There was some ridiculous spots, and I'm not a fan of Top Dollar's wrestling either, but I think give credit where it's due. I thought they put together a really fun blunder match here.
And it had like a bunch of your run-ins and your silly stuff. And that's kind of what PCO's been doing. Like, if you've seen him, like we've seen him on the indies for quite a while in the last few years. And he usually steals the show, because I said he's 52. He's actually 56. Wow. And I mean, like, if it's a crowd of 4,000 or if it's a crowd of 400, this guy goes out there and puts his body on the line, as we've seen. I can't count on both hands of how many times he's done some crazy shit at an indie show that we've seen, or Ring of Honor or whatever that it's been. So all the power to him. And he finally got this big moment. So you know what? I was, as a fan, I'm like, good for you, man. Like you really helped sell this show, and you went out there, and I can't believe Smoke Dizza and PCO were in the same segment together. But yeah, that was pretty cool. I really liked the stuff with Steph DeLander dressed as Wednesday, and apparently today they're taping at the same venue, and that they're going to do some sort of wedding angle or
right,
like wrestling.
I didn't know they were dating, but like, congratulations, good for them.
Well, kayfabe wise, I believe she's with someone else who maybe he shows up to interfere.
You mean it's not real, Braden?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? Wow.
Yeah, he's not actually a what is this dead Frankenstein French guy? Yeah.
Dead monster, man.
Yeah. I mean, what is AJ Francis? Because he certainly isn't a rapper. Sorry, Top Dollar. What else was on this show? We had Ash by Elegance in a match that was set up on NXT a while ago. Dana Brooke definitely putting on her working boots. I wouldn't say this was anything to write home about, but at the same time, like Ash by Elegance / Dana Brooke definitely like stepped up with her wrestling. I think she's heard a lot of the criticism. I mean, she was let go by WWE. I'm sure she took that to heart and kind of, I don't know, tried something. She hit a Canadian Destroyer. She hit some cool looking moves. So I got to say, maybe one of the best Dana Brooke matches, but maybe one of the lower end Jordan Grace matches.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think Jordan Grace is one of their biggest stars, if not their biggest star in TNA, and she puts on some really great matches. And this was on the lower end of it. I think Ash by Elegance did show up and did step up, but it was still on the lower end for me, this match.
Yeah. And then we had the X Division title, definitely like a calling card for TNA, with Speedball Mike Bailey, Montreal's own, taking on the President of the United States, Mustafa Ali. I hope this is the end of this gimmick, because I don't understand this gimmick, really. This match was really good, and then it got all silly with the breakdown of Earl Hebner and, oh, it's Montreal, so it's Canada, we better do this silly thing, and the sharpshooter finish. Again, I'm happy Bailey got his kind of big title win here, again, in a pretty big crowd, especially hometown boy and everything. I think he's one of the best talents TNA has, and finally giving him the strap is pretty cool. It's just interesting that, hey, everybody in TNA, we're doing a crossover with NXT and WWE, and Ali's like, cool, I'm out. I don't want this title anymore. I don't want to be involved. No, thank you. I just want to be the fake president. I thought the wrestling was really getting going with this match. I mean, these two guys are incredible in ring, but I'm a Canadian, and I'm sorry. The whole Montreal thing is played the fuck out. It's like, we come to Toronto, you know Trish Stratus is going to be on the show. Why? Well, because she's from Toronto, so she has to be on the show. Okay. And whenever wrestling goes to Montreal, we better bring up the screw job. In fact, why don't we just get Earl to come out and do the screw job? But instead, he reverses it, and then he actually calls for the babyface to win. It was just a little like, you actually were like, for a few minutes there, I was like, oh, this is pretty good. Oh, of course you booked it.
I think maybe watching, if you're watching the TV every week, the way that Speedball keeps on being like screwed over, so it gets it. You know, we see it. Same with, you know, Cody at Mania. It becomes a bit more cathartic when you're throwing everything at the guy. But I agree, it's played out. And to be honest, I felt the same with the finish to MJF Ospreay, where it's such a great match, and then we have, all right, we've got to pause and act now and do our melodrama. And I actually really didn't like the torn Will Ospreay. Oh, do I do my Tiger Drive or do I not?
Oh, right, yeah.
It's like, you've never pinned a guy with that move, Ospreay. Like, why are you?
Danielson's in the main event now.
Danielson's fine. He won a tournament. Like, he's absolutely fine. Kenny kicked out of it as well. So I don't like that. I think there's a smoother way you can get to that, and it is so played out. I groan whenever WWE tease it. It's 30 years on or whatever now. Like it just stopped the momentum of what was a really good match. And I think you could have still done the ref bump. You could have had Ali's men come in, hit him with the title, and Speedball still kick out, and then just get the win, and it would still have been a great moment. But yeah, I guess, and Earl just like he struggled getting into the ring, bless him. Yeah, I agree. Like both those things, I feel in general when you're doing these things at the end of a match, it drives it to a halt for me. Like it's going.
That's TNA.
And now we've got to stop and we've got to act, and it's
again,
get on with it.
Yeah, I'm being pretty positive, and we're always honest whenever we talk about wrestling for sure. And it's like every time TNA, it's like, oh shit, okay, this is a pretty good match. Okay, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I forgot it's TNA, but they had a pretty good main event, which I think was my match of the night, which was the 6-way elimination match for the TNA Championship. The champion Moose coming out dressed like he missed the Republican convention this week. I think he's attempting to be Homelander or something. I'm not sure. Wearing a cowboy hat, all USA flag stuff. Moose versus
all the system were dressed in this all night.
The system is the stable with
Eddie Edwards and the other guy, and what's the name? Yeah,
the other guy. Who's the other guy?
I don't know. Eddie's mate. I can't.
This sounds like that's the stable I hate. Then, if this is Eddie
Brian
Edwards,
Myers, that's the guy. Yeah.
Oh, poor Brian Myers. So wait a second. So I mean, at least he's on TV. So this system has been running TNA.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, the 6-person match: Frankie Kazarian, Joe Hendry, Josh Alexander, Steve Macklin, and Nick Nemeth. And you know what? This match had some pretty fun action. All 6 guys kind of working with each other. There was some good wrestling and some good storytelling in there. And I'm someone who doesn't watch TNA, and I'm pretty critical of their product. And I still thought like the talent definitely put on their working boots tonight. I would say, who do you think got the bigger non-reaction? Frankie Kazarian or Steve Macklin?
Oh, Kaz,
because you could hear the tech guy like in between each entrance, and they're like, all right, here comes another one, and then like someone's like, is this it? And it's like, no, there's 4 more. And then the last one, when Moose, he's like, all right, this is the last one. The guy's like, oh, fucking fine. Like these tech guys were like, fuck. And then Kaz comes out, it's so quiet. I'm like, oh, poor Kaz. And same with Macklin, the forgotten lad. But the wrestling was pretty good here. And I think they told a great story. It really kicked into gear for me when Josh Alexander kicked Joe Hendry into gear, turning on him, kicking him in the balls.
I love, we've seen it with some elimination chambers when you pin the champion in the match.
Yeah.
And then you go, wow, okay, we're getting a new champion. So I think Hendry getting that pin over Moose was a great big moment. And everyone wanted, like, Hendry is so popular right now that I think a lot of people were seeing him as the person they wanted to win, which made the heel turn from Alexander just that bit more effective. The most over baby faces just pin the champion, and now you kick him in the nuts and you take him out of the match. And it ties in as well. We've got, Ethan Page has been feuding with Trick and Hendry.
The North.
So, yeah, you got to reform the North.
I think so. That we better get that like ASAP. I think that was a missed opportunity not having him show up at Heatwave. But I mean, this guy's incredible wrestler. So
Alexander's great, and I think what I like about his style, it's similar to like Kurt Angle. You have some wrestlers where you go, okay, well, it's really hard for an Ospreay or a Rey Mysterio or whoever to be a heel because their moveset is so babyface friendly. Whereas I think the kind of, you're like Olympic style amateur wrestler, your Creeds, your Angles, your Josh Alexanders really work both ways because you can just be meaner with it. And I like Alexander as a heel. And I think, I'm hoping it's a step into reforming the North, but I thought that was a great booking decision, just that sequence of Hendry pinning Moose and then Alexander taking out Hendry.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I thought they kind of worked well. I think Hendry is someone who's like we've been saying like he's been super entertaining, and I don't know about you, but I walk around catching myself singing the first few bars of his song. So it's pretty catchy, that theme song. And I think we both believe in Joe Hendry, but I think a lot of the criticism is, well, he's just like a Fandango of the time. He's just like the flash in the pan kind of funny character people are behind. But I think he really stepped up. He was doing a lot of crazy moves, and he hit the fall away slam kip up like 3 times in a row. That was pretty good. And I think everyone kind of played their part in this match. And then having Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth win the title, I think it might be a little too late for him with like people being actually kind of behind or supporting. I think if he were to have maybe left WWE a few years ago, I think the iron would have been a little bit hotter for him. But I think this is the right direction. Having your, I think people might get mad that Hendry lost, being the most over character, but that just leaves more juice in the chase down the line, hopefully. And Nick Nemeth is probably your most paid talent, your most well-known talent, your most recognizable. So why not have him? You just turned Josh heel. You can have them spin off in the next pay-per-view for a singles match and have him chase the title. Like, there's a lot you can do with Ziggler winning it. So I think maybe some people might be like, oh, why didn't they just give it to Hendry? I think they need to let things kind of go, because they need to build more stories for the next few shows.
I'm more like, why didn't they just let it go to Alexander?
That's
Benny in the chat saying the heel turn was good, but completely defeated the mood for the rest of the match. So yeah, imagine if it was the final 3 of Moose, Hendry, and Alexander, and you did the same sequence with Alexander winning and walking out as your heel champion. It's the title he never lost because he vacated due to injury, and he's kind of been screwed trying to get it back. So it's one of which I'm enjoying these days, the justified heel turns that we're seeing with Drew and the like. You could have gone that way, and then his buddy is also the NXT champion, and that's where you have your 2 champions teaming up. But you've got to trust that they're seeing further ahead in what they want to do. Maybe we are building to a Nemeth Alexander feud down the line, which is something that I think wrestling wise could be pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe having Josh not win the title maybe is a bigger, clearer sign that he might show up on NXT, because they don't want to have their chance. I mean, Ziggler's probably like not going back to NXT again. Did that already. It wasn't great. I feel like having Alexander not be the champion means he can be pinned on NXT, and they don't want Ziggler to be pinned if he's their champion. So I do hope we get to see Alexander. He definitely was a shining star. He has been. And like, it sucks to say, but like when you watch something like TNA, you're like, oh man, wouldn't this guy be so good in another company? It sucks, but I always feel like when I'm watching Speedball or Alexander, I'm like, oh, you're so good. Why are you here? But like TNA needs to be an entity too.
This is the thing I always find when I come out of watching TNA is, and it's almost like how we used to watch NXT when we'd go, yeah, I'd love to see XYZ move to the main roster, but then they're just going to be lost in the shuffle and not do anything. And I feel that's like TNA is really the land of misfit toys, and you have your Josh Alexanders, your Speedballs, your ABCs, but you go, I just worry, would they just be doing nothing elsewhere? And I think an NXT is a good landing spot for some of them to try and workshop and see what could work for main roster. But I always get the same feeling when I watch these shows. I generally quite enjoy them, but on a different kind of curve. I thought you had some good wrestling here. The Ali Speedball match, the main event, ABC, and even the PCO match was pretty fun. But then it often does feel like I'm watching an indie show as well. When we're at Parkdale Hall and we're getting some like incredible lucha main event, that's great. But then we might have Matt Hardy or Gangrel in the undercard, and that's fun because I'm just down the road, and yeah, it's nostalgia, and it's Gangrel, it's Matt Hardy. When I'm watching like an actual pay-per-view from one of your top companies and I'm seeing Matt Hardy come out, I'm seeing Rhino come out for a nostalgia pop, that kind of thing, I'm a bit it doesn't quite work the same, and I'd rather you just built up. I know you need vets there, but I often don't think their vets are really there to serve anyone. It's not like Matt Hardy's helping Fandango learn how to wrestle in this opening match, is it? And
I'd rather Fandango.
Yeah. Oh, nice. I'd rather you just focused on trying to build up like some other people, and it's just the visual of seeing them on a pay-per-view makes it seem lesser than to me.
Yeah, this might be one of the better TNA shows I've watched in I don't know how many years, and there was still I skipped half the show, so that's like, yeah, it was a good show because I didn't watch half of it, and the stuff I did watch, it was really good, but you know there still was Alicia Edwards on the show, so there's still some things they need to fix in TNA, but that's what it is. It's wrestling. It's it's silly and it's ridiculous. There'll be a world title match where it's good wrestling, and then there'll be a Frankenstein character, and then there'll be a guy who was a ref 30 years ago screwing someone. So it's a good mixed bag, but it still feels like your indie show turned up a little bit. You're right, but like I said, best stuff I've seen from them in quite a long time. So hopefully they can keep this momentum, and having WWE NXT. Yeah, they're sending their rookies in, but it still brings more eyes and more attention. I'm not saying no quarter catch crew is bringing a lot of eyes to TNA, but in the same way, it's it helps. So good on them.
So that's TNA. We're going quite long today, and my medication is wearing off. But thoughts on WWE this week? Anything that stuck out to you?
Not really. I think I kind of said last week, I'm not that into this SummerSlam card. It's not really looking like a great show. I'm sure it will be, and I'm still going to watch it. If you're in the Toronto area, you should come watch it with us at Gabby's August 3rd at our watch party. Go to Poisonrana.ca to get tickets, $10, and we're going to have some games and prizes. But the whole stuff with Solo Sikoa and the Bloodline, I'm so hot and cold with it. Yeah, you should put Solo in a big match with Cody. However, it's SummerSlam, and I feel like if this is your second biggest show of the year, or at least it used to be, it's kind of a bit of a lackluster main event. If Solo and Cody is the main event, I'd argue that it should be CM Punk and Drew McIntyre as your main event, just because it's such a big, comeback for CM Punk, and the whole storyline has been pretty good. But some of the other stuff, the card right now, doesn't really got me going. And I know the stuff going with Liv and Rhea Ripley, I think that's been some of the storytelling that people have been getting into with the return of Mommy. But I can't say this card so far got me going.
I can see them unless you got the closing image of Roman coming out at the end of the show. You could headline with Drew and Punk and make it an unsanctioned match. Because I think the thing was on Raw this week was Drew didn't apologize, so his suspension is still on, and this match isn't official yet, I don't believe. So I wonder if they go the unsanctioned route, and that's a way you can have this close the show without being the title, and then throw Seth in there, who's obviously involved, but throw him in as the guest referee. And I think that feels like a big main event for the show over Cody Solo for sure.
Yeah. Do we get a Randy turn as well?
I think we're setting this all up for after SummerSlam. I think you've got the Bloodline, taking out Owens this week. They took out Randy the week before, and it could lead to both of them being heel down the line as further challengers for Cody, because it's yo, I was sticking up for you and I got my career shortened, that kind of thing. But they're definitely, Cody's promo this week was hitting you over the head, oh, he brought me in here, he was like a brother to me and all that. They're just obviously the Randy one is something we'll get down the line, but
yeah,
I could see Owens as well.
Yeah, I just also maybe they add DIY, whether that's at the pay-per-view itself or the SmackDown before. I think they're just going to become transitional champions at this point for the Nepo Bloodline babies. But I'm just yeah. I think they've been really hot lately. I just feel like this is a lackluster SummerSlam card. This looks like it would be a card from a few years ago.
I like the LA Knight Logan Paul segment this week. I thought both sounded good. Logan keeps on continuing to impress me with his his promo ability. And I think LA Knight just comes across as a star. He's so comfortable as well. Like, I do think that the promo games have definitely upped in WWE recently. And I thought these two were pretty good this week on SmackDown. I'm higher on it than you. I agree. I think that's a weak match, Cody solo. I think a bigger match if you like activated the Randy card earlier and the Randy turn earlier and had Cody Randy.
Yeah.
I think the rest of this show would look a lot stronger because I think they've built up Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley really well. And I'm enjoying the stuff with Dominic. I enjoyed, we talked about it a bit on Tuesday, but I enjoyed the Priest Gunther promo segment as well. So I think they've built the show quite nicely, but it does feel like it's lacking that huge world title match. Because
so Randy should just take out Solo and be like, nah, I got the match now. I feel like
Roman just comes back on Friday next week. It's like, nah, it's me.
Yeah, I just feel like there's a little bit of a lackluster, considering they've been like on fire with the big, with everything since Mania. Just like, this one kind of looks missable to me. You can kind of see where like Cody's not losing the title to Solo Sikoa, unless Tangaloa, messes up his spot again and inadvertently costs Cody the title or something. But it's not the biggest party of the summer by any means this summer.
Well, that's WWE. Have you caught any of the G1 yet this year?
I did. I tuned in. I cherry picked some matches from today and from yesterday. I'd say it's off to an okay start. Takeshita being in the G1 is definitely the drawing power for me here. I think he's an incredible wrestler, so I'd watch him wrestle a broomstick probably. But his match was pretty good. Who did he fight? I don't even remember who he fought now.
Against Stucci on the
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good. I don't think it got to like, match of the year quality contender quite yet, first night going in, but I thought it was still pretty entertaining and kind of cool for Takeshita to be wrestling in the G1 for New Japan. I mean, I don't know if you watched with English subtitles, but Chris Charlton and oh man, I'm blanking on him. I just looked him up. Mike something?
No, Walton Fuller, Waller. What's his name? Walker Stewart. You know what?
I think he's been pretty good at like kind of explaining other little side things. I've been following him on, Walker Stewart. He's a young guy too, but I think he just got the voice. This guy could read a phone book and be like, oh yeah, he's great. But I think he did a great job of kind of, at least on social media, explaining why this is such a big deal for Takeshita to be in New Japan. He tweeted something about Takeshita being 9 years old, trying to get his way into New Japan. I think asking them for like a job or something like that. So to finally like wrestle for this company, I'd say is pretty sweet. I mean, he's been a DDT guy, which has been like a way lower tier promotion. So I think it's kind of cool. And you know what? I think Takeshita should win the whole thing. I think it might be a bit of like something New Japan needs, because they are like, the interest level is like in the negatives compared to where New Japan was. And it's unfortunate that their talent has been like raided by all their top guys have been disappearing, that it's Naito who's now the crutch of being the guy. And it's like, crutch is the right word, because this guy needs them to walk around on, because he's like on his last legs, but he's the only one they have that could like main event the Tokyo Dome. And I don't really know who his opponent would be. I liked Shingo versus Naito, and Shingo getting his win over Naito in the first night main event of the G1, I think is pretty telling. And I think that could end up being your main event for Wrestle Kingdom, even though we just saw the match, but they do that, showing the champ lose and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think it's a good time to like help, get newer stars over, but they should have been doing that like 2 to 3
I'm not having them as a victim because their talent wanted to go elsewhere. Like it's on their, like, they should have been building up stars a few years ago. And I think you've got potential, like your Sujis, your Uramuras, your shooters, like they could be your top guys, but they're not yet. And you've got to pull the trigger on one or two of them now, because inevitably you're going to have this transition period, and in 2 years' time it could be really hot again, and these are the guys we're talking about. But they should have started this process a while ago. I've caught a bit of it. Nothing's really blown me away quite yet. I quite enjoyed I actually quite enjoyed what was it? Was it Zach and Okan? Just their brawl throughout the was that the match? I'm blanking now. But yeah, I didn't really like Shingo and Naito. I've seen it before. I like Shingo, but I think his time is done. Like, I think the time to go with him was a couple of years ago, and I'm not seeing anything new. Like, I didn't see anything new from these guys, and it was slow. I felt it was 10 minutes too long. I thought the closing stretch was pretty good. But I'm enjoying the story of Naito going 2 down. You know, Zach beating him on night 2 was pretty big. Zach's undefeated so far. I thought that was cool. I'm looking forward to see what we get from like Takeshita and the likes going forward. But so far, yeah, nothing's blown me away at the moment.
I liked. I watched just before recording. Actually, from this morning, it was Shota Umino taking on Shingo, and I thought that was pretty good as well. And I learned that my girlfriend's cat is a big Shota Umino fan. For some reason, the cat was chilling with me, and I'm watching the match. And by the end stretch, this cat was like right against the screen, like, "Whoa, what's going on with this guy?" So maybe Shooter could have some sort of cat gimmick. But I think that was my I mean, it's only been two nights of it so far, and there's going to be a lot more nights and events. And I'm definitely I've always been a G1 cherry picker, where I ask friends or, hey, what's the match to kind of check out? And it's very rare that I'll go through the whole thing. But when I was scanning from today's show, I saw it was Shota and Shingo. I was like, yeah, of course I'll watch that one. And I thought that was probably better.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was probably the best so far. But hopefully we get some stuff. And again, like, there's some guys in this tournament that I'm not super familiar with, and I hope that they break through and kind of make a name for themselves coming out of this. So yeah, I'll still follow, but I'll definitely be cherry picking. And I'm watching, hoping that it kind of picks up. But my interest level in New Japan is definitely at an all-time low, just because they haven't really created their stars. And like, bless them for trying now, but it's just a little too late. And I don't know what you can. There's no way they're not going to sell out 2 nights of the Tokyo Dome, but they're going to have a tough time, because I don't know like what stars you're going to have to bring back. Okada and Ospreay and Kenny to get people like really back and hyped behind them. And I imagine we get a lot more AEW presence for both nights of that. But I think it would be smart to maybe push Takeshita and put him in there, and maybe that's someone New Japan fans can latch onto as the outsider, kind of going in there and having that chip on his shoulder, like, screw you, New Japan, you're the guys who didn't want me, and now look at me, kind of thing. So we'll see. But
that'd be cool. All right, I think that's everything for this week.
That's a lot of wrestling we just chatted about, but we'll be back to chat about some more next week. What's coming up? We got Blood and Guts this week.
Blood and Guts. We're doing our Hot Rod review, and obviously NXT on Tuesday.
Yes. So follow the socials if you haven't already, at Poisonrana Pod on Twitter and Instagram. Go give us a follow to follow all the stuff that we've been doing.
You'll be away next Sunday, right?
That's right. I will be away next Sunday,
and
actually.
I'll be joined by Stephanie Chase at 2 p.m.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Same time, 2 p.m.?
Same time, yes.
Excellent. So tune in here, 2 p.m. for Davie and Steph to chat about some Blood and Guts and everything else that's happening in the week. But Davie and I will be back this Tuesday on Post Wrestling, chatting about some NXT. And of course, follow us for all the stuff. And check out our Patreon if you haven't already, because we got lots and lots of fun shows up on there. Never-ending podcasting here at the BDE. And we appreciate you for joining us. Hit that follow, hit that subscribe. Write a nice little review. Any Apple Podcast people, give us a nice little review there. It goes a long way. And the little things help, and we appreciate it. Yeah,
we do.
So that's it. That's all. I myself, Braden Herrington. You can find me Twitter, Instagram at the Brady.
And you can find me at Davie Portman.
That's it. That's all. Take care. Goodbye. Be safe. And F that owl.
Ahoy!
Poisonrana.